I did mention that this type attribute would be important. And indeed, there are different values we can set for this type attribute, and that will then influence which kind of input is expected from the user. Now, we learned about type text, which in the end is responsible for displaying an input field that wants a single line of text. And with single line, I mean that, of course, the text can be as long as the user wants it to be, unless we as a developer restrict it, which we're going to learn about later, but that you can't enter complex multi-line text that easily. And that's the default kind of input field, which you also get if you don't set a type at all, though as I mentioned, it is recommended that you do set a type to make it very clear that your intention is to have this kind of text input field. Now, there are other common types as well, though. For example, the type email. This also renders an input field that looks exactly like the other input field, but an input field that actually wants an email address. And the difference here is that if you do visit this website on a mobile device, for example, you get a different keyboard that opens up on that mobile phone. You get a keyboard optimized for entering email addresses, which of course is nice to have and greatly improves the user experience. In addition, you will also get some built-in input validation, as you will see in a couple of minutes. When a user enters something which is not considered to be a correct email address, the browser will show a warning then. But again, we'll see this in a couple of minutes. Another useful type of input which you can set is the number input. If you want some number, let's say an amount to be paid, or any other kind of number, you can set this input type, and then you, do have an input which is optimized for fetching some number input. Again, on a mobile phone, an appropriate keyboard will open up, which makes it easier to enter numbers by focusing on numbers. And you get a couple of other nice features in addition. We're going to see this in action soon as well. Now, another useful type of input is the password input type. This is generally the same as the default input type, but it obscures, it hides the user input. So that if someone is standing behind that visitor of your website, that person will not be able to see what was entered. And that's of course the default behavior you know from password fields, that you don't see the value that was inserted there. Now, another nice input type, nice to have, is the date input type, which will display an input field optimized for entering dates. For example, in most browsers, a date picker can be opened once the user clicks into that input field, hence making it easier for a user to select a date. But that's not all. We also, for example, have the type radio for rendering radio buttons. And this might sound weird, but you have definitely seen them before, and you will see them again in a couple of minutes. With radio buttons, you can render multiple choices where only one choice can be active at the same time. We also can render checkboxes with type checkbox, which is a yes/no kind of toggle button where the user can either check the box or not check it. You might know that from forums where you agree to some terms, for example. Another interesting type is the file type, which renders a file picker, where users can select a file that then should be uploaded to some server. In this course section, we'll not be able to upload it yet because we're lacking the server-side part, but we can at least have a first look at this input type. And there also are a couple of other types which you can check out on MDN, because those are types which are not used that often and which also don't have that great of a browser support. Which means that you might be able to set that type and it might work in Chrome, but it doesn't necessarily work the same in other browsers. And that's why here I focused on the most common and well supported types. And we already got quite a bit of different types here already. And of course, therefore, we're now going to take a closer look at those different types over the next minutes.